Welcome, BBCers, to episode number 206 of the Broken by Concept podcast, the number one solo queue educational and motivational podcast. Curtis's today's major topic theme is going to be playing from behind. Now, this is an extremely common question that you'll see in improvement communities, us as coaches. Probably one of the questions we've seen most outside of maybe champ pool questions. It's a very nuanced topic. We're going to explore different routes. What I want to start with is why? Why do we think it's such a popular question? So I'll start with my theory first, Curtis, okay? Well, and this might be just sound really basic, but I feel like the mindset of people have, it's like, okay, so playing from ahead is like pretty cool. That's pretty easy to do in League, the snowball nature of the game. If I can figure out how to play from behind as well, doesn't that mean I can win like all my games, or I have potential to win all my games? I think that's sort of the most basic place it comes from. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, look, really simply. I mean, think about it. You're going to be behind a lot, right, in League. You're going to be dying a lot. So I think it's very logical to ask that question.
It is a logical question.
It's very logical.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I am going to be behind. What do I do about it? Is there anything I can do to win games when I'm behind? And I think it is a completely reasonable, logical, great question. So I think very simply that's the reason. I'm behind a lot. I'm stuck in these games. What do I got to do about it?
I'm in situations I just don't know what to do because I feel I have limited options. All right, now next up here is we and the community. I want everyone to think about this, listen to this episode. Let's really define what does playing from behind actually mean? Because people throw out the term, similar to the term, what was the other episode that we, other topics we've done, like tilt, like, stage 4 issues and stuff we talked about. Like there's just so much in there, right? Like playing from behind, let's say what we view as like a situation as like, high elo, players and coaches. We might say, actually, you're not as behind as you think you are because of X factors. Because as we talk about, League is such a complicated game that we really need to get into the details. So what's some definitions here, Curtis? How would you define playing from behind? Is it even possible to use one sentence?
I don't have a very clear kind of short, sharp sentence, but I have a way of thinking about it. And I wish I had a diagram of it. I should have actually wrote it down. But I think of playing from behind kind of visually. And the way I think about it is that I imagine kind of like a target. Those like targets where you have like a bunch of circles and then a smaller circle inside that circle and a smaller circle.
It's like a shooting range.
Like a bullseye. Yeah, like a shooting. Yeah, when it's like a bullseye and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
The way I view it is that the center would represent that it's only you are behind. The one outer rim around that is that it's like maybe you and your jungler behind. The one about that is like maybe you and your jungler and your side lanes behind. And then like you go further and further to the point where if everyone is behind, then that encapsulates the entire circle. And so there are many layers of what it means to be behind in League of Legends. You can be behind individually, or you can be behind in terms of your comp, in terms of the map, in terms of objectives, in terms of side lanes. So the way my mind works when it comes to identifying how far behind I am in a game, I don't just look at my immediate 1v1. I don't just look at, I can't get prio in this lane. I'm behind. Therefore, gosh darn it, I can't do anything. It's like, okay, I might be behind in my 1v1, which may mean in maybe solo laners, I don't get prio anymore. That's a very simplified way of viewing it. I don't get pressure. I don't get prio. But that is an incredibly oversimplified way of viewing it, because sometimes just because you're not able to get prio doesn't necessarily mean you're behind. That might just be the nature of the matchup, right? But then again, I'm thinking, how behind am I and my team? How behind is my team relative to their team? And this is why this topic is so complicated, because you got to factor in how compositions interact. And the way I like to think of this topic is that it actually has an infinite skill cap. The ability to identify how behind you are is equally difficult to identifying win conditions, because they are one of the same. They are actually the exact same skill set. How good you are at identifying your role in a comp, how good you are at identifying win conditions, how good you are at identifying how compositions interact, the better you are at identifying how behind you are and what you need to do from behind. So it has literally an infinite skill cap. There is an untapped potential, the untapped amount of possibilities that are out there. That's the way I view it. So again, in a long-winded way, it's an incredibly complicated topic.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add to that. I want to go back to your analogy of the circle. So sort of the way you're thinking about is that if your entire team is behind on the right edge and you're behind, you're so far away from the center, like you can't...
The way I view that analogy is
the center you win in the game.
Yeah, the way I view that center is the way I view that analogy is that the further you go out, I guess the more area you're exposed, or like the highlight. Look, let's think of it as like a dartboard or something, right? And the enemy is trying to throw a dart. If everyone is behind, you're the whole board.
Oh, got it. So they can easily hit. So they're not trying to hit the bullseye. They can just hit in the target.
Exactly. They can do what they can be inefficient with what their decisions are. You're so far behind that it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
But if you're only a little bit behind, or maybe you're behind, but everyone else is winning, that's represented by only just the very middle, which is a small area, surface area.
It's like a team fight. They're so far ahead. They can miss all their abilities still be unkillable.
Exactly.
Yeah,
what I
see. So I see.
That's kind of like how I've
because I view it more so in terms of like options, especially as a jungler. It's like it's not actually a wide range,
interesting.
Which I'm choked in. I have very little options. Like I don't have the whole canvas or whatever.
You're constricted. So it's relative. It's whoever's lens you're viewing it through.
Yes.
Through your lens, when you're behind, you have less options.
Yep.
The less and less options you have because you're just weaker.
Extremely restricted. But let's say if someone else is strong on your team, but I don't control their character, so I can play. There's certain things I can do, but it's still, that person could DC, suddenly.
Right.
So I have again a lot less.
But from the enemy's perspective,
they still have a big board.
They have a bigger, so it's all relative.
Or just your teammates, even your allies.
Yeah, even your allies. Yeah, exactly right. Okay, so rather than I think the way I wanted to start this episode is actually kind of go through a series of examples. I think that's the best way to do this.
Yep, and then we can talk about more general
we'll kind of tie it all together because I think there's a lot of avenues we can go down. What I'm about to do now is I'm going to go through 4 just tabs. There's no gameplay. There's just pictures. So if you're all watching on, listening on Spotify or something, you might have to bear with us. I'll try and describe the scenario. This is the first screenshot here. So this was a recent game of Aurelion Sol that I played. So I'm the Aurelion Sol here. I was versing, the high elo Kennen OTP on our server, F Cuck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. He's a really good Kennen player. He's like this Grandmaster Kennen OTP.
Yeah.
And he plays Kennen mid. He plays with Electro Ignite. And he's very good at Kennen. And if we take a look at this game, I'm 0-3. My jungler is 1-4. I've got actually a very unique bot lane, kind of like, one of those not fasting centers. I've actually got, I think it's just a support center with an Ornn bot. I got a top lane losing as well, right? So I've kind of got entire top side losing, bot side doing well. And the enemy cannons killed me a few times. But there's a few things that I want to draw your attention to here, right?
And the score is 6-10. That's an important one. So
6 and 10.
That's usually the first thing people look at when they think that they're behind, right? It's just about the score
line.
It's just looking at the score. That's the most basic way you view it.
So I think the first thing that I want to direct your attention to, you would say that we're behind, right? Well, I'm behind. You would argue that I'm behind. I mean, what would you say? Would you say I'm behind?
Oh,
Kennen?
Yeah. You as the Aurelion Sol, you are, yeah. Yep. But keep going. I'll just let you keep going.
So I'm behind objectively, right? Yes. You would say that.
Yeah.
Now, I want to draw your attention to my CS here. I'm actually 86 CS to Kennen's 81 CS. So what does this mean? This means that my deaths were probably quite high value in the sense that maybe I already cleared the wave or I died in a pretty efficient way. In the sense that these are not bad deaths. Typically, the mark of a bad death is where you get denied a lot of farm. So a classic bad death in top lane is where you're heavy trading when the wave is slow building into you. That's the worst possible time to die because when you die, you're going to lose all the farm. Or maybe you heavy trade and you die when you don't have TP, things like that. So I'm in a situation where even though I'm 0-3, I'm actually farming okay relative to everyone else in the game, actually. I've actually got the most farm in the entire game.
Even though you have 3 deaths.
I've got 3 deaths.
0, yeah.
So that's one thing to direct your attention towards. The other thing I'll direct my attention towards is that We've got, I would say, a relatively, I wouldn't say super easy to execute, but we got frontline, which is good. It makes the comps easier to execute.
You have plenty of tools. You have Jarvan ult, Ornn ult.
Yep.
You have, center Ornn. Isn't that insane scaling?
Yep, really good scale. We got great scaling right across the board.
Yeah,
and Fiora, we got great scaling across the board. And the enemy have one dragon.
So there's no threat of like a dragon soul. He'll be interesting to see where we can see the grubs. Where's grubs?
I don't think grubs is on this. I didn't actually take a screenshot of that. Now my point being, when I look at this, yes, our team is behind. I would probably say holistically. I'm behind.
Yeah, but remember, we're looking at, I want it to be more from your perspective.
Okay.
Aurelion Sol in this game will be like, hands up, I'm behind. How do I play from behind? Right.
Okay, so my point being here is that I don't look at this and I'm like, gosh darn it, I don't have anything to do. And the reason for that is because Kennen can't shut me down. Kennen's a very mid to low range champion. Kennen can't prevent me from farming. And that's the thing. Now, if I was maybe 0-3 into a Syndra or maybe 0-3 into a... let's say champions that could translate their leads easier, maybe like an Akshan. Maybe I'll 0-3 into a Yone. Maybe I'm 0-3 into something that could even roam, a Katarina. I would be in a lot of trouble. But I'm 0-3 into a champion that, yeah, sure, Kennen will get prio. There's no doubt Kennen will get a bit of prio. And there's no doubt Kennen will have good team fighting. But Kennen's roaming, pretty average. Kennen also can't bully me under tower. He can't really prevent me from farming. And I'm basically going to be able to get to my Rylai's pretty scot-free. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like from an ASOL perspective, in my 1v1, I'm not really sweating. I'm like, that's not the end of the world. Now, I think it's important to note that when I look at their entire comp, they're all also really pretty low range. The only thing that really makes my life annoying is Rengar. Right? But then again, we've got really, really good frontline. I can group. Our comp has a pretty clear identity. We can combat that. So when I look at this holistically now, extrapolating just from my perspective and ASOL, I feel pretty confident that I could... there's going to be avenues back into this game. I don't view myself as I'm out of the game.
100%. Yep.
Right? And so this is just one example. I just kind of want to plant that there. Now, you did mention a really, really interesting thing at the start, the scoreboard. Now, this is one of the things that I found the most fascinating with clients, Nathan. When we look at we actually never look at this as actual high-level players. I never look at the score.
The only thing I'm looking at is team comp, items, experience, and gold. I'm looking at level disadvantages.
Yes.
These things are way more
important. And who has the kills? Right? I think who has the kills is a big one. If I look at a game, right, and then it's like, oh gosh darn it, it's 10-6, but my support has 3 kills, or their support has 3 kills, then whoop-de-doo. Or if or maybe their one-fed member doesn't do well into our composition. And that's kind of what's happened here, in my opinion. I mean, like, I don't look at Renekton for me from an ASOL perspective. I'm not really shitting myself. I don't look at this from a Kennen mid. It's like, I'm not really that scared. That's my point. So the quality of the deaths and who gets the kills has a massive impact in dictating how behind you actually are.
Yeah. You could definitely throw out some very general narratives as well, which, we try and avoid general narratives, but they do actually sometimes help you think about playing from behind to keep you in like a positive headspace. Like I see a Renekton 4-2 with a shutdown. I know he's going to be playing ridiculously because that's just what Renekton's playing. He'll give the shutdown and he drops off. Renekton drops off. So when I see their team comp, I'm thinking about... So from them, they definitely can absolutely close out this game and cleanly close out this game. But their team comp is such an execution-based team comp. If Kennen stuffs up his next 2 ults, boom, bam, end of review for him.
Blitzcrank makes a hook.
Makes a couple of hooks, yep. Rengar just ults in, right? They have a very massive burden of execution on their comp. Your comp, not so much. Actually, very much way easier to play.
Jarvan, ASOL, Ornn.
Yeah, a lot of tools.
So many tools.
You can easily, catch out the Kennen with no flash or whatever, and against up to ult. So that's the way I look at this as well, is that the burden of execution is so high on the enemy team, and solo queue's chaotic. Honestly, the scoreline could be even a bit worse, and I'm chilling.
And we won this game in like 25 minutes.
There you go. It makes perfect sense. Yeah,
right?
And I bet you if we looked at the review, it would see everything. Kennen doing some bad roams, letting you get some towers and plates, getting some gold. You'd see the Renekton dying, given the shutdown. You'd see Blitzcrank being on the wrong side of the map or warding incorrectly. You'd see so many errors.
Yeah, I think all that happened from memory is that Ornn just got prio bot, moved up to a rift fight, caught the Rengar on the rift. I backed him up. We got like a double kill, and then the game just kind of exploded.
Yeah.
So let's move on to another bit of another. This one's a little bit different. So I've actually included the top here so you can see everything in this one. So basically what you see here, 9 kills to 16. Okay. Now this is a Halo game that I played recently. That's actually Hayri on Twister Top. That's Why Not playing Viego. He's infamous Viego in the jungle. That's me playing Asol here.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go through this. I'm on 2 items as an Asol. We're down 2 dragons. The next dragon's coming up in 2 minutes 30. Baron's coming up in 30. And as you can see on the enemy, they're pretty strong, right? I mean, the MFs on 2 items doing really quite well. Their Rumble is very strong, 6 and 3, right? Doing really quite well. Hecarim farming really well, 2 and 0, 141 CS. I'm actually down 20 CS. This Anivia is really quite strong. And so what really jumps out to you when you look at this, Nathan?
Curtis, now looking at these now, I didn't realize we were going to be doing this in the episode. You had some screenshots. I just realized I could do this all day. This is so fun for me because I can literally break down exactly all the mistakes that I'm probably going to see in this game of like, what's going to happen each side. So, number 1 here.
Okay, well, let's start with the question. Who's behind?
Who's behind? I'm going to say the exact same as your team. You're behind, but the enemy is again more execution reliance. Or like, oh no, okay, no, not really. Sorry. Their champs are not as good into yours. So I've played a lot of Braum support. So number 1, the bot lane's actually popping off, right? And your brands are like 1 and 4. Brand has 1 item. Playing Braum into all that range, right? Brand, Ezreal, TF. Braum likes fighting, like peeling and like sort of front to back type fight. So Braum is basically very alleviated this game.
Anti-dive more so.
Yeah, more so. Again, that's not to say that I'm just going to throw my hands up as a Braum, the game's over. It's very on him to be making smart decisions and not getting chunked for no reason, right? I could see that happening. And Nivea as well, very bad into heavy range, high range. Yes, she could catch the brand, with a NTF and even you and Viego, I guess, with a wall, but that's sort of... she would have to be playing really well for that. Whenever I see a Nivea mid, my first question is how many melee champs do I have on my team? If I am against a Nivea and like I have a melee support, 3 melee top side, I'm like, oh, and like, like Silas mid or whatever, or Yasuo, I'm like, oh, this. If that person gets just even or ahead, like that's really terrifying. So I'm not worried about the Nivea here. Rumble is doing really well here. And Rumble is once again burden of execution. He can easily stuff up ults. And Rumble is one of the hardest top laners to execute in the game. You have to be extremely good to close out games with Rumble. So it's similar to the Renekton situation. And Hecarim's just a factor in this game. Hecarim will do quite well this game. Hecarim could easily carry this game. So I think that you have plenty of tools. I think the enemy team... Braum and the Anivia, not too good into your comp, and Ezreal also has great scaling as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to summarize that, though, really, really simply, they have a 5v5 teamfight comp. We have a comp that's side lanes, 1-3-1.
Yes.
We have 1-3-1, they have teamfight. It's really that simple, right? Think about their comp. You got Rumble and Nivea, Braum MF. This is the definition of just like brawl at it, sit there at a neutral objective and play the teamfight. We have a TF, an Asol, and an Ezreal. Right, so we got a great 1-3-1 comp, right? I can play side pretty well as an Asol. I can shove and move really well. TF can play side really well. We can play man advantages. So for me in this game, yes, we are objectively behind. We are weaker. If we fight head on,
you'll get obliterated.
We're going to lose.
Yes.
If we just rock up to a 5v5 and everyone uses each other's abilities, we're going to lose. So, and especially the fact that we're down 2 dragons. Now, so yes, would you say that we are behind? Yes, we are behind. But that doesn't mean we don't have options. This is a game where I wouldn't say we're really that behind at all. If I'm in the game, I was actually feeling like, okay, well, yeah, sure, we're on the back foot, but I've got many options. I've got many tools. So what I'm trying to show is that the point that I'm trying to make here is that it's not about being behind. It's how behind are you? How constricted are you? Tying back to what you said earlier. How little options do I have? As an Asol in this game, I have a lot of options, actually. We have a lot because of our comp. And so what ended up, just to really tell you what happened, I just played side. TF played side.
Yeah.
Me and TF just played for man advantages. We made Rumble react inside and Nivea react inside, and we both just shoved the move and collapsed.
And side lane comps are much easier to play against low. There's actually low engaged, low threat by them. It's only the Hecarim. Hecarim could definitely pick you guys off inside. That's a burden of execution on him. But yeah, Braum run into me and Nivea run in. Rumble can obviously get a good flank, but if you know where he is, he's not threatening with his R. So yeah, you can easily execute your win condition, which is side lane.
Exactly right.
Yes.
So the point is that we have options. So we're behind, but we have options. So as long as you have options, it doesn't mean, yes, we are behind, but it doesn't mean you're out of the game. Okay. So that's I think a really, really classic from behind, but we have options example. Here's another one. Now this one here is, this one's interesting as well. So I was playing Asol into Aurelia mid. My bot lane was pretty all over the place, relatively even, I guess. Top lane kind of losing. I've got the set on my team kind of losing to a Yorick. And I've got a Rengar and they have a Karthus. Now, this one is... It's interesting, is it, when you take a look at this one? It's a little bit chaotic,
Oh my God. I just realized what I did, Curtis.
What?
I just looked at the lobby, right? What I did here, and I looked at your scoreline, and you had 15 kills to 13. My mind here was you guys were so far behind. But what did I miss? But you're not. You have 15 kills to 3. Who's got the kills? The Rengar.
Rengar's got 5 kills.
That's so fascinating to me.
This one's interesting, right? This one's I'm not necessarily behind. But what I wanted to talk about in this one was more so, again, the burden of execution. Playing Aurelia into a Rengar is really hard.
Okay.
I think, right?
Yeah.
That's like one thing.
Yeah.
So this is one of those games where even though for me, I'm behind and Set is behind, I think how difficult that is to execute into a champion like Rengar and Asol, I found is really, really, because what happens is that Aurelia a lot of the time has to go in and has to trade aggressively. I've got a fed Rengar, and what ended up happening this game is that even though I'm behind in the isolated 1v1 I can't really deal with this person in the 1v1, I can be really annoying, hard to kill with my Zhonya's, my Rylai's, my bone plating. Rengar just hovers mid and just kills the Aurelia, and that's exactly what happened. Rengar just killed the Aurelia on repeat.
Oh, really?
Even though I don't have many options individually, what I can do is I can make
Set
Aurelia
up.
sweat. I can make her really annoyed. I can pull waves. I can be a nuisance.
Yeah,
Rengar-
you would have to play this game really well, dude. You and
Yeah.
Rengar. The way that I look at this screenshot instantly is that even though that you're up 2 kills, the enemy team this is such an easy game.
It's
for them to
hard. It's a
win.
hard game. No, I would say this is a hard game, but
Wait,
again,
for you though, right?
Yeah, for me, it's a hard
but
game.
for them, I think it's easy.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that we're behind, but we have options.
Yeah,
Again,
I
we have
see.
options,
I
and also
see.
the burden. I would say for Aurelia specifically, it's not easy.
Yeah, okay.
Like
I guess
Karthus,
so.
I would say is pretty easy, but Aurelia is not easy. I don't
Well,
think
it's
at all.
more the Yorick. When I say the Yorick there,
Right.
that's really difficult. Yorick and the Karthus and the
And
Zeri.
yeah, what ended up happening is that Rengar just kept farming the Aurelia. I getting a bunch of kills, and then we just end up just roaming onto the Yorick and killing Yorick really easy inside. Because
God damn
Asol's
it.
is so good at taking over the map.
Aurelia and Yorick, man. Let's step it up, dude. Like, come on, man.
Now,
I
that was
see
a bit of
this, I'm
an
chilling.
odd example. This last one is now the El Clasico behind, in my opinion. So, this is actually me versus Biopanther yesterday, playing Set.
Yeah. Oh,
Now,
cool.
this is the first time I played the Skarner matchup. I didn't know the Skarner matchup, and I got obliterated by Biopanther, which was to be expected. Now, as you can see, I'm level 9 into level 10. But the thing is, I got really dominated. I lost my tower. I'm behind in TP. He had a TP advantage. And most importantly, everyone was... like, my entire top side was bleeding pressure. Their mid jungle, Galio Lee Sin, had complete control over the Ahri and the Galio. I'm getting shoved to tier 2 by a Skarner. They have a dragon. And we don't have a way of ever winning the skirmish in the team fight. That's how it felt in the game anyway, because Galio has first move. These guys, that Lee Sin Galio, beat the Graves and the Ahri in the 2v2. I'm getting absolutely annihilated. I can't even lane versus Skarner at this stage of the game. I'm getting pushed all the way to tier 2. So we have 0 topside control. Skarner has permanent move. And the only chance we have is somehow peeling for the Kog'Maw, right? Kog'Maw's doing okay on bot side. But again, we are behind, but it's this is one of those things where to execute our win condition is so hard, in my opinion. Like, it's really, really, really hard logistically, because how do I even get to the fight? And this is what people forget.
So you're basically saying this from Set's perspective. You're behind.
Yes.
People will, you're actually,
Okay.
even though the kill was like 7-6,
Yeah.
you're like useless.
And so this is where I want to get the specific. This is where the specifics matter.
Yeah.
As a set in a game like this, and this is what people don't understand about playing, being like how behind. You can actually be even in strength, but because you're not getting prio, it's very hard to get your damage off or to get your utility off. The classic example, I remember I mentioned this a few episodes ago, was the one where I was playing Lux into Ryoma's Tristana. And I had all this damage. I'm farming 10 CS per minute as Lux. Tristana gets into the side lane. I don't have TP, I'm taking barrier. I can't get to a fight. If I ditch the side wave to get to a neutral objective, I lose the tier 2. So the way you want to think about a lot in League of Legends is not just how strong you are and what your comp can do. How difficult is it to actually do that thing? So you might look at this and be like, oh yeah, can't you guys just sit on the Cogmore and just peel the Cogmore, and they're just going to struggle to kill the Cogmore? Well, sure, but how are we going to do that? This is what actually happened. Galio, Lee Sin have perma move. I have 0 prio. Graves can't touch his top side. Skarner has perma move. I have no TP. They're going to stack dragons. There's nothing I can do about it. If I ditch top and rock up at the dragon, we have to face check them, and we're not going to win the front to back 5v5 yet. We need items on the Cogmore. Then these guys are now stuck in the isolated 2. They can start now pressuring bot side. Cogmore and Janna getting choked out. And so, yeah, sure. If we were able to sit in a 5v5, great, thumbs up. But how do we do it? And this is where a game
You can't specifically do it.
It can't specifically do it. So this is one of those games where it's 7-6, and yeah, we are maybe a little bit behind. But in reality, we're really behind because of the nature of the champions and because of how that champion kind of interacts into my champion, and because of the build path that I went. I didn't go Bork. I fucked up my build. I didn't go Bork. I went for the Stridebreaker. I can't even get anywhere near the Skarner.
Yeah. Yeah, this is an interesting one. This is one where you would really need the gameplay to sort of explain feel it. Like a lot of people could, like the last examples, I think people could agree, just look at the more generalities, but you have to get more specific here at why it feels like you can't do much.
Exactly.
It's a bit harder to see because there's not like that. You know how you can see a comp and you can see the scaling chance.
People don't understand this is the thing, I agree, because people don't understand what the top matchup looks like at all.
Yeah.
They can't visualize that. It's like tricky. Literally you can't get anywhere near. It's that bad.
You would have to show.
You have to show what it looks like. I see what you mean.
And also show what the Lee Sin invade in the top camps and the execution, and
you can kind of visualize, but I can understand how the audience it'd be a little bit hard. So my point that I'm trying to make with all these screenshots, Nathan, I guess to summarize, is there is so many variables that go into what determines how behind a composition is and how behind you are. And so I want to start by saying a quote here. And this is the quote that I heard recently. And this goes for everyone listening. A lot of you guys listening are quite passionate about League of Legends. League of Legends is your hobby.
I'd like to think so.
And you spend a lot of time on this hobby, right? You've probably got hundreds of hours playing your hobby, playing your game, playing League of Legends. So you're often going to get to a point where you know enough that you think that you're right. You're gonna get to a point where you know enough where you think you're gonna be right about something. But you're not going to know enough to know that you're wrong. So I'm going to repeat that.
Yeah, we need to repeat.
You will often know enough to think you are right, but not enough to know that you are wrong.
I see.
And so this is what I found with playing from behind, because people come in and they think they're behind, they're feeling shut down or whatever, and they say things like, "There's just no way I can win this game. I'm out of the game. There's nothing we can do."
Yeah. And what the behavior specifically you'll see in the game play is forcing things, and there's zero relaxing, and like they can't just scale up or whatever.
And you know enough about the game you can have a pretty good contention. You can say all this stuff. This is why we're behind. Blah 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 blah. I promise you, there is always another option. There is always another level. You're just not there yet. You're not an expert. And so my advice to most people when it comes to playing from behind is, in a way, you got to have, we'll get into the practical advice later on, just at a high level, the advice I would give is that I promise you there is always something else you could do. There is always something you could do to make the enemy sweat for LP. There's always something you can do, whether it's creatively, with the map, with your decisions in the game, to massively increase your likelihood of winning the game. And I just think,
Absolutely agree.
and I think that's just such a huge, it's a skill, and it's a very, 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 very advanced skill. Because I win games that my clients say, or I post these ASOL games recently. I get a message from Prab, who's a Master Tier ASOL player. He's like, you win these games that I just never win. Because there's little details that you will later on in your journey that you'll be able to tap into that you would never know. So that's what I want to preface this whole section with.
Yeah, and in terms of like building that skill, so this is where I'm going to go on a bit of a monologue here, Curtis, and let's explore this because maybe you'll disagree with this. All right, so people might know on this podcast before, or especially if you know the way that I coach review, especially from the jungle position, the end of reviews, right? A lot of the time, I won't even get to the mid game to even have the opportunity to play from behind because we've made so many game losing errors that we can learn from. Like, sort of, it's more of a learning process instead of like I'm trying to like figure out how to problem solve how to win this game. So you can go across some of our other recent episodes, how to review. We talk about the end of review process there. I'm not going to go into the whole end of review process here. I sort of just want to explore again where people are coming from when they think about playing from behind and the dangers of this. So first things first is that no one has consistently or climbed significantly from learning solely from playing from behind.
Okay.
That's another way of doing this quote. You don't get LP from winning games playing from behind. You don't get a majority of your LP from winning games playing from behind. Maybe that's the quote that I'll finish on there.
It is a bit of a generality.
All right, so what?
Because again, it would depend on the champ you main as well, right?
Yeah.
Think about the Kale mains out there, or the Kassadin mains.
Absolutely, for sure. It definitely would. Those people would be winning a bit more. So a lot of people would say where people get through why they love that idea of learning how to play from behind is that they'll insert, and I want to sort of tag onto what you said there about, this is a mastery, a skill. They'll insert, well, challenger player could be in this situation right now and win this game, right? I hate that argument so much because it's just not possible for you to suddenly be Emerald player and just have a challenger understanding about win conditions and things like that. That gap you can't just get there. No. Even if Curtis is saying this is how you win that game, like they can't put the pieces in at the exact moment and like figure it out, right? So that argument is thrown out the window, right? So you're not going to you can't rely on learning how to play from behind to win games. All right, so that's my first point. The second point is let's actually flip it, right? Let's completely flip it. Let's imagine that there was these tips that we're going to give you on this podcast, or you watch some YouTube video, or you have some coach or whatever says playing from behind. What happens if playing from behind actually there was like this magical secret and stuff, right? And then suddenly when you're ahead in League of Legends, it's really easy to come back from when you're behind. Imagine what League would be like.
So you're saying that as a thought experiment?
Let's do a thought experiment.
What if League wasn't punishing?
What happens if it was easy to play from behind?
What would the game look like?
Is that a game you would enjoy? Right? Was that a game that would just look like we just got 5 scaling champs in the game here, and then you don't get punished and then you can't snowball out the game, right? And I think the answer is no. I think everyone would hate that game. So just high level, it can't.
You wouldn't
be
feel
easy.
satisfied for your good plays. You wouldn't feel rewarded. I'm doing all the shit, but I'm not really snowballing here.
So it shouldn't ever be the case in a MOBA, in League of Legends, where there is somehow some magic little secret to playing from behind, and it's easy for everyone to execute on. That should never exist. So if you actually come to grips with that, then you start understanding it's like, okay, well, I actually do need to rely on having a good early game, being consistent, learning the fundamentals. That has to be your mindset first. Sort of see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, so just to kind of, I guess, summarize or see if I got you here. You're saying that it's not that playing from behind isn't a skill, and it's not that it's an important skill, but it's more about the ordering in the way you learn it. you should always learn how to get ahead first, have a good quality early game, and then you can maybe dabble in playing from behind later on.
Yes,
Which is the order in which you lead. You don't go try and figure out how to play from behind.
Order, but even attention. Like maybe you play a 3-game block, 2 games. You find the quick end of review, and the 3rd game, you made some mistakes, but you want to learn a little bit. Like what options might it have here? But your attention is mainly on you understand the importance of those early game sort of mistakes. Rather than like just a flat out order. It's like I learn the early game first, and then I learn playing from behind next.
Okay, I want to propose something then. Maybe, just maybe, the way you get better at playing from behind is actually the exact same as playing from ahead.
Yes, because you have to have an understanding of the game. It is. It really is. They go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand.
Yes, that's perfect. That's such a good way of putting it, because that's why that gap exists. That's why you can't have a challenger level understanding of how to play from behind as an Emerald player. You can't instantly get that knowledge or expect to find that knowledge, because the mistake that you're making in the early game is going to be affecting your mid to late game and playing from behind anyway.
And but I'm saying even just very specifically, playing from ahead is identical to playing from behind in the sense that, like, realistically, right? If you think about it, all playing from behind is identifying your role, considering whether or not you want to contest a neutral objective, thinking about whether or not you win a fight, looking for opportunities, and understanding your role, understanding your job in the win con. That's everything you would do when you're ahead. Everything is basically identical when you're behind. The only difference when you're ahead is that you're the one that has control of the wave.
Yeah. And
you're the ones that are shoving out the waves.
Yeah.
So when you're behind, you're the one answering the waves. When you're ahead, you're the one pushing in the waves. Right? But it's the same questions. It's the same problems. The person from ahead is thinking, do we want to, the person from ahead is thinking, okay, we're going to go for this dragon. Let's prep for the dragon. The person from behind is thinking, okay, dragon's coming up. Okay, let's give that.
And trade something.
They're both thinking about the neutral objective. Yeah. They're both thinking about what's next.
Thing.
But it's the conclusion that you come to is ultimately very different.
The decision making will be different. Yeah.
The person from ahead is thinking, where do we want to place our vision next and move and where do we want to control vision? The person from behind is thinking, okay, that's where they're going to be. What can we do as a result of that? Do we want to trade that? Can we pick them while they're getting vision? What can we do? When you're ahead, you're looking to see if people are split or people caught off guard to engage and go. Vice versa. If you're behind and you see them split on the map, catching sideways and being greedy and desyncing their resets, you will go and look for a pick. It's identical. All the major difference is when you're ahead, you have way more options. When you're behind, you have way less options.
That's right. But the options are still following principles and the way the game works nonetheless. Experience, gold, objective, trading.
The underlying variables are identical.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Now, in terms of my sort of bias or hatred of, people really trying to, that question of, playing from behind, the way that I think about the game, and this, again, I think it's more because I'm just a jungler, and junglers, you ruin the game. You have such an opportunity to ruin the game. You can make the game so difficult for your team. That's just the thing, because if you go gank that, you get counter ganked, you triple kill the enemy, your team loses, 3 waves. This is behind positions that, compared to those screenshots, there's just games that you won't actually be able to claw back. And as a jungler, get ahead, learn how to get ahead and stay ahead. You're never going to consistently climb and win games as a jungler specifically, even if you're playing scaling champs when you're playing from behind. Because if you're playing a scaling champ and you're a jungler, guess what happens to you? You don't have the luxury as a laner to just get some side lane farm in a tower. You're losing all your camps and you can't get side lane farm because your team's getting it as well.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here then, right? Realistically, you remember we had that quote from Swagnar who said that a lot of the time what we're doing in the MLA and the Jungle Academy and the Saltwood everything is we're spiking people's curiosity, right? it's less so what we say and the content itself. It's the fact that we're getting people excited about the game and getting them thinking about the game.
Yep. Be more, let's think it a bit more instead of saying, oh, I'm on a lost streak, this game sucks or my team sucks. Let's actually do a little bit more depth research about why that might be the case.
Or
asking
even,
the why.
But even people come to one of your coaching sessions, they rock up. You may say all this stuff about what they could have done better that game. But even the fact that they are rocking up and they're getting engaged, they're trying to be, they're actually just showing up to a coaching session and getting excited about improvement is what gets them
that is what
net
gets,
results
yeah,
in a way,
results,
right? That's the contention.
They could get learn really nothing from the session. The act of doing that is a positive sign of just getting to the problem solving mindset process.
Okay.
Let's just ask some questions. Let's just, we might not have the answer to it, but let's just ask the questions.
The reason I raised that is that my fear with the end of review process is that it's stifling that curiosity.
I see what you said. You're saying don't even bother looking because it's pointless. I see what you're saying.
So sometimes I feel like I entertain the idea of playing from behind because it gets people inspired. They see me play games where I'm 0-4 in ASOL and I win the game.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I get it. I don't expect you guys to be able to win this game. But it just shows the potential of what you can do with your champions. And the way I view playing from behind is it's like an inspiration mechanism. It's a curiosity mechanism. It's a way of people really pushing the limits of what their champs can do and actually just being intentional about their decision making. It's about having a crack and it's about just like really asking high quality questions. And I feel like as well, and this is where again I think it really depends on the champion. Again, let's get specific, right? Let's speak from a mid laner's perspective. If you're playing, you're playing Zoe or something, or like Oriana, and you're screwing up your early game, well, then obviously that's going to be a lot more painful than it would be screwing up your early game as like a Talia or an ASOL who has, all these creative like terrain scaling mechanisms and things that they can do to make plays in the mid game. So obviously you'd probably put maybe a little bit more attention on your mid game with those sorts of champions. But my point still remains nonetheless. I just think sometimes we need to be careful about stifling that curiosity with people. And so I think in a lot of my reviews, and I'm just going to speak about my review process, I have had the tendency to go into mid games where they're maybe 1-3. And I never would have done that in the past. But sometimes I might say something that gets them excited. It's like, you could actually use your eye here and you could have actually got a triple Q here. And that maybe that completely fucking flew over their head. I don't know. But it's like, oh shit, yeah. That actually makes a lot of sense. Maybe I could have done something there. Because half the battle, and this is actually what I really wanted to talk about.
Wait, first can I rebuttal
that? Okay,
one?
rebuttal that. Boom.
All right. So my next one here is I might just be really underestimating the human mind and human potential. But our energy, resources, our mind, our mental stack, what we all talk about, I think it's extremely limited. And we need to be putting our attention in the right areas. Like I think you had a really good quote. I can't remember if it was the last episode or the episode before that about invested in early game and getting good at early game is 20-1 returns, and mid game stuff is like 5-1 returns type thing. So if I absolutely, I'm all for that, sparking the curiosity, get them in the problem solving mindset. But my fear, I guess it's a fear that people love this idea of playing from behind because for, some bad intention or like they, just understanding how climbing works. Like they're trying to get the answer to figure out how to win 100% of their games rather than understanding it's only about, over a 50% win rate. Just, you're going to lose a lot of games. They're going to start trying to problem solve, try to problem solve games that literally are a waste of time of problem solving, right? Because again, human mind's limited, our intention's limited. We know how much focusing on the wrong things and going down weird paths can build up narratives, and your view of the game can be really distorted. So that's, I guess, my fear.
Yeah, and I think as well, this is where client personalities come into play. I think there are people that really need discipline. And it's like, you just got to do this. There's no point being distracted. Just don't even bother getting into mid game. But there are other clients that I feel like benefit from dabbling a little bit there, maybe going into game where they're 1-3, because that you might go over an early game with someone, But you know that that's not representative of the average early game, or at least I know. I've had heaps of clients like that. I'm like, well, I don't want to nitpick your early game here. It was a tough early
I have
game,
that as well.
and
I
I'll
do
just
have
go into
that.
the mid game.
Yeah.
So like, look, I hear you. I definitely hear you, and I don't know the answer, but I think you raise an important point, and I think it's completely reasonable.
Yeah.
100%.
And sort of, again, the skill, like I'm not saying for people to never bring me a VOD of like, okay, I got really far behind. Like, how do I problem solve this? But
it's not really far behind, and this is my point.
Yeah, like we got to define it.
it.
No, but this is, Curtis, where the skill, like let's say a goal players understand playing behind.
They're
so we
never
need to
gonna
define
know.
it. Those 3 screenshots that you sent me, you pick those as an example because they're great to demonstrate that playing from behind is possible from these. But there's probably a lot of games that you could even show. We could go thing. It's like we shouldn't even problem solve this one. We shouldn't even waste our time looking at this one, right? Yeah. And they won't know the difference.
So the set one is like that was what I was trying to demonstrate. Is that you get tricked.
Yeah.
You look like you're not. You don't look you're that far behind, but in reality you're really far behind.
No, well, the set one you had a head in kills.
Yeah, we're heading kills, but like I lost my tower. I was down 2-0.
You shouldn't be confused why.
Like I would never review that set mid game.
Yeah,
but there was set mid games where I'm 0-6, and I will review more than that.
Yes,
that's my point.
Good. Yeah,
but that's like the complexity of it.
Yeah, and that's hard. How do you know that?
How do you know? Yeah. How does the average player know that?
Exactly right.
Exactly right. I see what you mean.
You see what I mean?
But okay,
and that's why it's just really clean, simple, and stuff.
Yeah.
Just early game, bam, and then once again, tying back into beautifully what you said is that your lack of ability to play from behind is a direct flow on of like your lack of ability to get ahead and even play from ahead as well. It's the same thing. Your skill levels all involved. It's the same game.
It's the same game.
Experience gold, right?
What I will say about this though, let's talk about practical advice then. Right, I want to talk about practical advice, right? There's one piece of practical advice that I would give, and it's start with a mindset. And this is something that I still use to this day. You should never, ever assume that the enemy are going to clean out the game perfectly. Finished out the game perfectly. A lot of people have this assumption where they see the enemies, they're all fed. I can't immediately see what I'm going to do right now. So they capitulate and they just think, well, I have 0 options right now. I can literally only collect farm under my tower. And then their mind goes into overdrive thinking, fuck this game, get me out, exit, FF, lose focus, who cares, get out. Those are the games, I promise you, where if you can just take a deep breath, continue to farm under your tower, do nothing. And that might mean, you might lose your tower, you might lose 2 dragons, you might lose all these jungle camps, whatever the fuck it is. I guarantee you there will be an opportunity at some point if you stay poison focused. Because the enemy are not T1 and World Finals Game 5.
And also, think about the psychology when you're ahead. You guys can think about it from your own experiences. You get lazy. You think the game's over, so you start doing stupid things. And then guess what happens? You do that fight over nothing. There's no objective up. Give that shut down, and then you're desynced your timer with you're dead, and then you come alive, and then your teammates die. You know that desync that happens?
Yeah, I called it the death cycle.
Yeah, it's
I gave it like a name.
Yeah, it's like it snowballs because your death timers are all desynced. So it's just death after death after death, right? And bam, suddenly then you realize, oh my God, Baron's taken, and then they're pushing and they just explode and you just lose the game, right? So yeah, absolutely. You got to realize just the human psychology aspect of it is that when people are really far ahead, they get really lazy and sloppy.
And just because you don't know what to do in this very minute doesn't mean you won't know what to do in 3 minutes from now. It may become clearer.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I don't know what the hell to do right now, but okay, if I just sit tight, as long as I don't run into them, I don't do any stupid roams, just sit there, do nothing, collect farm under your tower, give, and then it might be clear in a few minutes from now. It's like, okay, we've lost a bunch of towers, lane is going to get swapped up, we're going to give that dragon, okay, go here, and then you're like, oh, what the hell, they're actually completely split. Can't I just kill that guy? And you might find things that you would never have found before just because you're poised, you're focused, you're coherent, and most importantly, you're making them sweat for their LP. And I think that mindset takes you a very, very long way. That's even more important, I think, than the skill in a way of playing from behind. Because
it's the mindset.
It's the mindset that leads to everything else.
Yeah, how can ask the question when you're behind is you don't even think about winning the game. It's just how can I make the enemy team win in the game as hard as possible?
Yeah.
And that's a really powerful mindset. And more often than not, that actually leads to wins. You're like, oh, wow, I just made a lot of really good decisions that I was just trying to prevent them winning the game. And I actually just get the victory screen at the end.
Yeah, exactly right. More pragmatic advice. Just give neutrals. The amount of reviews that I do where you just don't need to fight a given neutral objective. You need to have a reason to fight a neutral objective. You see a dragon coming up in a minute, whether you're ahead or behind. Are you fighting it? Do you want to fight? Do you want to contest it? And if you don't, say that, give it, trade it.
The speed of that decision is really important, especially for a jungler, because you need to be trading quick, smart, dude. You know, if dragons,
you know, a minute
before
advance.
you have an idea. Yeah, I find people are just too slow, and then they might give it, like, because again, this is where you get specific. They might walk there and they realize they have to give it, but because it's only 15 seconds now, they get dragon and they can defend the top side play.
Yeah.
So suddenly, you know, you've just lost more options.
The biggest one that I see is that they influence people with their body language. So an example of what you said, let's say, for example, the jungler is, you're working with a jungle client, the dragon's coming up in 15 seconds, they type give, but they're actually hovering in the area.
It's confusing.
And because their
messages.
body
I say
language
this
is
all
there,
the
they
time.
influence, because I always say there's
Yeah.
3 forms of communication.
Yeah.
You got typing,
Yeah.
you got pings, and you got body language.
Body language.
And body language is incredibly powerful.
That will overpower the other ones.
It will.
Because people start seeing you and posture like, oh, like even though you might have typed and pinged something,
You
they
need to
might
walk away. You need to actually walk
physically
away.
move your body, yeah.
And then if you ping and move and type,
Yeah, that's the
if you do
ultimate combo.
the Holy Trinity,
The holy trinity
you
of
will
communication.
you will highly influence people,
Yeah.
strongly influence people.
Yes.
That's what I found in solo queue.
I agree. Yeah, people forget about the body language part. I always see it's like, I didn't want to fight this. Like I pinged it, you know, I typed or whatever, and then I see them going like in and out. It's like, dude, you're confusing. You know, this person. There's just like this weird dance.
Yep. Yeah, we've got like it's like the Dumb and Dumber effect.
Yeah,
That's
it
kind of
is.
what I
It's
call
like,
it,
yeah, it is, isn't it? So as a jungler, I mean, at the end of the day, even if you're behind, the tip is at the end of the day, you're still going to always have a strong member. Now, this might be a strong member specifically just items, levels. That's the most obvious way, but there's another one where even though maybe they might be like 1 and 2, but you start seeing they have a lot of good farm, and you realize that they're actually very good into the enemy team comp. So typically, it's very few games you have 0 potential win
Zero
games or
options. Yeah.
Very, very rare.
Yeah.
Let's say for an example, the first thing for some reason that comes to my mind is like a Nasus in the side lane. That's like my Nasus. It's like 1 and 3, but has really like it didn't come to some fights. We died, and then starts getting strong and pushy. I don't know why that comes to mind. I think I see it in reviews. I just definitely see it.
So what you're
in my
saying is that
games.
you're envisioning a game where everyone's losing, but you have this 1 and 3 Nasus, and he's like the shining light in the dark tunnel.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm going to nurture this thing.
That's right. And all it will take
Yeah.
is him having ults. One, me being there counting and key pressures. He ults, they all go on him, use their abilities. We clean up 3 kills, Baron, we win the game type stuff. Like that's always an option that comes to my mind for some reason. But that's, I have so many better examples, but I can't think of any right now.
Yeah. And so, but I think you're right. I think more often than not, actually taking the time to think about, who is in the game, who is actually still somewhat in the game. And then just really practical advice is like, okay, well, who's got the kills? Who's got the, is it your support? Is it their support? Is it do they have a 3-0, I don't know. I'm just trying to think like a jungler with who has kills. What's a jungler that gets kills that isn't like, you don't feel like, wow.
We're blanking here, Curtis.
Yeah, I'm blanking.
Why are we blanking?
Well, I don't want to say Jarvan because Jarvan with 3 kills is terrifying.
Is it really? I will
I've
review a
had
Jarvan
nightmares.
with 3 kills who were EQing R and at the wrong time and ruined the game.
Okay, let's say like a Warwick, or something like that.
Are you trying to give me an example of a champion with kills that you're not that scared of?
Yeah, or like that can easily throw their lead. That don't snowball
Warwick
easily.
is obviously a good
Warwick
example. Which again, the Nasus example, you don't see Warwicks in your games. Why are you throwing that in?
Yeah, I don't know.
Lee Sin, Curtis.
Yeah, Lee Sin.
Lee
Okay,
Sin.
that's a great example. You
Yeah.
have a 3-0 Lee Sin. Sure, they have the potential to smurf and pop off and carry the game, but more often than not, I'm not thinking, gosh darn it, that's not like a 3-0 Karthus or something like that.
That's
or
right.
3-0 Rengar.
It's like that
Nocturne.
Renekton, that first screenshot. The Renekton was
Yeah.
7 kills or whatever. He had a shutdown, but again, he will just ruin the game.
No, it's not that he will. It's like there is a chance that he does,
Yeah.
right? It's not like,
And if
again,
he
it's
doesn't,
like who has
snowball
the
the
kills.
game.
And then also the quality of the deaths. Is your mid lane at 0-2, but they've actually got equal farm? Are they equal XP? And that's actually something that you'll see quite a lot. Maybe the enemy flash for and you see this often where your mid laner dies or a mid laner dies, but the way they died was really good because the enemy maybe like flashed for a kill, went for like an ignite play. They couldn't get in the wave. And even though they got the kill, they couldn't fix their wave state or something. And then they're actually ahead, but not that ahead. Again, it's the quality of the deaths matter a lot.
Another one is ultimates. So there could be a situation where the enemy blows a bunch of their ults. You have yours. Even though you're behind, you can absolutely still win and clean up fights.
Yep.
I see, on the reverse, I see that all the time. All the time in my reviews. I just be like, okay, I did a review today. Syndra is your strongest member. She has no ult. You should not be fighting type thing. So yeah, thinking about the enemy team not having ults. You have ults, that's options for you.
Another one is what dragon is it? Oftentimes, I will actually literally give Dragon Soul. In desperate scenarios, I will give a Cloud Soul sometimes. I'll give a Chemtech Soul. I'll give them sometimes. If I absolutely have to give a Dragon Soul to literally get myself by a little bit more time to get into the game, I will. So giving maybe an Infernal or something is oftentimes maybe not amazing, or maybe a Mountain is probably not amazing if you've got a lot of tanks. My point being is that it's sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And often, and this is going to sound absolutely ridiculous, I had a review today with someone where I said, you should literally give this Baron. I don't care if they get Baron here. If you get, right, this, I'm going to pose a scenario here. You're slightly behind. Let's say you're, 15 to 20 kills. You're on red side, they're on blue side. Let's say you're playing top and you're playing Garen and you're you're on bot side, right? And your jungle, maybe a Kindred, tries to gank your lane around neutral state on bot side. Okay? You're on the opposite side of Baron right now. And as a result, the enemy, they go Baron. You kill that top laner. The Kindred takes the entire bot side. Garen continues, get bot tier 2. Your mid laner shoves and gets mid tier 2. In my opinion,
That's a good trade for the Baron.
I would honestly not be upset about that.
Yeah.
They have 4 Barons. You got 2 tier 2s. You took their entire bot side. You get tempo. You get control. That's not that bad.
And the thing about that as well is that they can't utilize the effectiveness of the Baron because they have to respond to those waves. They lose. That's automatically losing about a minute of their Baron buff plus, right? So, yeah. I mean, now that you say that, because I'm trying to think more so. You know how you actually learn how to play from behind, Curtis? Is that think about all the times when you're ahead that you can't close out the game or win the game. That's a great way that I've actually learned that as well. I know all the mistakes that can potentially be made because I've made them, right? So that's probably sort of the best way to learn it. Like I could see so many situations where, when you just get a Baron and then it's those really early Barons, like 21, 22 minutes. And you just get like 1 tier 2. You get like nothing for it. So like giving that Baron from the enemy thing, it might be nothing, right? It might feel like a big deal.
And that's what it was earlier in the game, exactly.
Yeah.
Giving an early Baron is way better than losing a late Baron.
Late Baron is really difficult.
It's really difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right.
Because people push waves too fast.
Yeah.
And
And they can actually,
everyone moves around the maps quicker. And
They can
shit,
siege hardcore, yeah.
Any other tips, Curtis?
That's the main ones, really.
We've talked a lot about win condition roles.
And I would just say the last thing here I had was most people drastically overestimate how far behind they are.
Yeah.
I think that it's okay to be a little bit behind again. And I guess that stems from the idea that the enemy are not going to play perfectly. And learning to say no and just have a crack. But yeah, I think there's a lot there for people to kind of work with.
One last thing I'll say, Curtis, is that a big part of learning to play from behind is completely tied to your champion mastery as well.
Yeah.
We can't not say that, Curtis, right? We're big on champ mastery.
I mean, that's just a given, right?
That's a given, but just making people aware, like, don't you ever expect to pick up a champion, right? Right? You know, your first 5-10 games.
Nathan, we shouldn't even be saying this. If
and
you're a
try
BBCer.
and try and problem solve how to play from behind.
If you're
Like,
a BBCer,
I never want to hear
this should be
that.
written
I hope so.
in the BBC Bible.
Yes.
You know, in the Bible. You don't have champ mastery. We shouldn't even be remotely.
You're not talking about playing from behind.
Playing from behind is assuming you have champion mastery. A lot of champ
We
mastery.
should have probably said that at the beginning.
Yes, we should have.
You know, because then people will be going around, you know, that you look at the OPGG, they're playing, you know, all these different champions and they're trying to problem solve how to play from behind. That's probably worst case scenario.
That is worst case scenario. That is absolute worst case scenario. That's the equivalent of going down to the casino with no money. That's the equivalent of taking out a loan to go to the casino with no money in your credit in the bank. It's that bad.
That's a good analogy. It's as bad as it gets.
Yeah, because you're just a complete waste of time. You have no understanding.
Well,
what your
people
champion
would
do.
argue, you know, they put it all on red. There's a
win.
there's a win, there's an outcome, but I don't think there's any positive outcome. There's actually maybe a positive outcome.
Yeah, you
So
can get
that's
lucky.
that's a bad analogy. There's getting
Zero chance.
I mean, I guess you can still get lucky and feel like you're playing, but again, it's not going to last without champ mastery. You're going to have quite a struggle down there. All right.
Good.
So that was a good exploration of playing from behind. Let's move into our school community post. My laptop has died, so I need to plug the charger in. So we will be back in a jiffy. All right, so school post for today. This one caught my eye. Title here: How giving up the champ I loved really helped me improve. This is from Eleanor. I believe she's been quite high up on the rankings on our school leaderboard for a while here. So let's break down this post. So yeah, love this title. I could relate this to a lot of my clients. We've gone through some stories here of my famous Italy players. You know,
like Wukong, right?
Yeah.
You told that story a trillion times.
Yeah, you know, going from struggling in platinum for, you know, a year on the harder champs and then rocketing up to emerald, you know, in literally, you know, matter of weeks. All right, so Eleanor here says, I know people can be really attached to one specific champ. I am too. As my name suggests, I really love Ari. She is the reason I started playing mid lane. I have almost 700,000 mastery on her, and she's the champ I simply love the most from a gameplay and aesthetics design perspective. But after over 600 ranked games of one trick in her and playing her a lot before, I still felt stuck. It did not really feel like burnout because I still enjoyed playing her a lot. It was just really difficult to see my own mistakes. Everything felt really complicated and slow, like trying to walk through a very deep snow compared to before when I first climbed with her. For reference, I started in bronze 4, climbed to silver 2, and then fell back down to around bronze 3, bronze 2. Now I am gold 1. Since I work as an illustrator, it really reminded me of the feeling you get when you look at a single painting for too long while working on it. It all kind of blurs together and your eyes actually start fooling you by fixing mistakes by not noticing them anymore. That's why artists use mirrors or flip the canvas when they work digitally in order to see the painting with fresh eyes again and prevent this from happening.
That's
very
really cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Great analogies, by the way. God, we love analogies here in the Broken by Concepts universe. I tried to apply the same thing to League by swapping my champion to Brand. I did play him before and liked him, but I had no real attachment to him.
I thought she was going to say, I tried to do the same thing by turning my monitor the other
No. Oh, no, Curtis. Getting too literal there with the analogies.
Yeah.
Analogies are meant to be analogies, Curtis.
Yeah.
I did play him before and I liked him, but I had no real attachment to him. He was very fun to me, though, and a lot simpler than Ari, with very clear reference points. I not only started climbing again immediately, I also suddenly was able to apply a lot of stuff I already knew when I was playing Ari, but just not able to use in my games yet, and it showed me areas that were still very flawed because of how I played Ari. Like poor threat assessment because of her escape tools, as well as bad resets, because I always took TP. Funnily enough, when I improved with Brand, my Ari also got a lot better, and I was suddenly able to execute her on a much higher level than before, even though I did not get there playing her initially. I kept her as a secondary for when Brand was banned picked. That's why I can really recommend to kill your darling sometimes and to drop your favorite champion in favor of another you are curious, excited about that might teach you new things or help you improve overall. For me, at least, it was 100% worth it. It made me sad first to admit I was still not good enough on Ari yet, but now that I am so much better on her and as a player overall, I'm so glad I did not try to force the journey on Ari. Did you have a similar experience, or did you try to push through on your champ even when you felt stuck, and happy you did it? Would love to hear some stories.
This is so vindicating, by the way. I love this post so much because the amount of times that I've had to try and convince people that this is the right course of action is unbelievable, right? Same as you.
You know, it's sort of that ego. What Alana said here. It's that narrative of like, you have to admit to yourself, I'm just not good enough to play that champion.
Yeah.
That hard champ. Do you know how hard that is to accept?
It's hard. Yeah, it's really hard.
And again, you know, the way that you get tricked in League all the time. Remember, you have those good games. That's why that Nidalee one was so... Because we would review it, like, wow, you know, you're hitting spears, you know, it's looking all good this game, but the enemy team's just like making it easy for you know, just the easier games. You get tricked with your champion. You can get tricked into... It's not as simple as like, I play a champion and just lose every game. That's not how usually these journeys look. They win games, they feel super strong, they carry the games, and then the next game, and they just don't have the success over a longer enough period of games. So it's hard to firstly admit it, and secondly to actually see it, like see it for what it is. Like this champ's too hard.
Yeah, and I actually think it's kind of one of those cases of as well, you've been telling yourself the same story for so long, you start to kind of trick yourself that is the only course of action. It's kind of like you're in too deep. It's like, think about it, right? You knew, let's say, for example, the first time you faced adversity with a champion, you probably heard that advice. Oh, just play something simpler. But you're like, no, I'm gonna stick with my champion. I love my champion. It's the only champ for me, right? So that, let's say that's like kind of iteration number 1. And the same thing happens again, iteration number 2, iteration number 3. And so what happens every single time you say that sentence, you're digging yourself deeper and deeper. The barrier gets larger and larger. So to kind of go back on your word per se is really, really,
it's like you're
really
going
hard.
back on like, your belief system, your narrative, right? Your identity in a way. It's like, especially if you're, a one trick, you'd be playing this champ for the, did Alana has like, let's say if you name your character or your profile picture is on Discord is that champion, sort of builds that narrative more and more, right?
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, I can totally understand, and I trust me, I do understand how difficult it is. It's just one of those things where it's a very, very painful experience. But now that Elena has had this, she's going to be able to take that moving forward to everything, and she'll probably expand her pool moving forward and enjoy many other champions. So really, really awesome to see.
So looking at some of these comments here, this is Andy. He's in my program here. At the start of the split, I had similar thoughts about Jarvan, who I one trick. Nathan recommended I try out Diana, so I played her for a week but didn't do so well. I lost my first 11 games on her but finished the week 4 and 12. I do think it helped me to learn to ignore plays and hit my camps more. On Diana, I had no idea how much damage I did or what I could do, so I just defaulted to farming 99% of the time, which is something I struggle with on Jarvan. I also learned that Diana is not for me though, so I'm back to one trick in Jarvan. The jury is still out on if my week of Diana helped my Jarvan improve or if I'm just winning because I fell from D4 and I'm up to Plat 1, but I do think the experience was a good thing for me. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like, that's a very small sample size of games, right?
Yeah.
In terms of actually giving that, a shot. If you're a one trick and you pick up a champion, you should go 4 and 12. It's not like the champion.
No, it's exactly. I mean, it's just that's just going to happen.
Especially
regardless.
a champ. There's such a different identity, right? So
especially a champ like Diana specifically, you're just you need to know your limits incredibly well.
Yeah, and Andy has gone back to Jarvan, and I said, all right, let's just.
But you're not really. If you're only playing that many games of a champ, you haven't really given them a go.
No.
Like I think you need at least 30, 40, 50, somewhere in that realm.
And I wouldn't even say this is aligned with the title. Had given up the champ I loved really helped me improve. He didn't give up the jump.
No.
Right? This just doesn't fit that criteria. Sam here said, I actually kind of hope this happens to me because I'm quite reliant on my main man Jin. This isn't a huge issue in the lower elo, but if I And hopefully when I get better at the game, I'll find the way to play other AD carries as much as I've played him. Sam said I hope this happens to me. Like, what are we hoping to make the decision?
I think what people are scared of is that they're going to move their champion and they're still going to have the same problems.
Oh, I see.
I think that's, I'm assuming, what he's scared of. Maybe he's thinking, well, if I do that and if I don't get results, holy moly, then now what, you know?
Yeah, it's the fear of
the fear of what if?
Yeah.
What if I fail again?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And lastly, Jenny here says, I've been in the process of that myself. Last split I played, mostly misfortune, but this split felt bored of it and I honestly struggled to perform after the ADC changes. So looking for a change, I started to play Jhin as well, playing some Ezreal casually in norms to one day bring into ranked. I've regained a lot of passion for the game and I'm learning some new things thanks to Jing's unique kit. For example, an end of review moment where I died to a gank got me thinking about where it's best to trap, which got me thinking about jungle tracking and the way each jungler tends to path for ganks. So I can use this knowledge on almost every champion. Also, I'm learning some mechanical tricks that Misfortune could not teach me with the casual Ezreal gameplay that also applies to a wide variety of champs.
But I also think as well, like the thing with this is that it's, and what Elena said in her post is that it will actually make you better at your main champion. So she performs better now on Ari, even though that entire time she was barely playing it. She was only playing it when Brand was banned. But that's the thing. Then that is the tough pill to swallow. The tough pill to swallow is that you will literally get better at the champion that you were maining before without even playing it, purely because you're learning new skills and you're viewing the game a bit of a different way.
And you're just, it's like taking a break, you know, just a refreshing perspective.
Yeah, just refresh your perspective. Yeah. It's so important.
You can get so lost in the weeds playing one champ, hundreds of games. That's why you always say, Curtis, is that
Champ cycling.
Champ cycling and being a one trick is like really unique type of player to just flat out play hundreds of games, thousands of games, and just.
I don't get it. I simply don't get it.
It's weird, isn't it? It's rough.
Really, really, really hard to do.
I just don't think that's the way League should be played.
I don't really think you can say that.
I can't say that.
You can't say that.
I think that maybe back in the day, you could get away with one tricking more. I
mean, look, the reality is that you can play League however the hell you want to play League. I don't think League was meant to be played any way. Right?
That's right. That's the beauty of the
game.
That's
the beauty of League. You can chop it up however you want. You can play 5 roles, play 5 roles. If you want to play 80 carry, 17 80 carries, do it. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. Right? That's the great thing about League. I just think that it's, if you're questioning that, if you're thinking, this one trick thing, I don't know, then don't. It's that simple.
That's right. The moment you're having that thought, the
moment you're having that what if maybe I'll be getting more results with that, then do it. That's a sign that you probably need to be getting the hell out of that one trick mindset.
Yeah. I'll officially retract my statement. I love one tricks. One tricks are awesome.
We need them.
We do. We actually do. We need to learn from them. They're the ones that push the boundaries of champions.
They go to the depths that
they
we would never go.
They
go to the
exactly
depths.
Right.
Places, dark places that I don't want to visit.
They like, what's that saying where, you know, this person has to go first? You know, like with someone with a machete through a jungle and like someone has to clear the path for the people and they're getting all the spikes into them and stuff.
Right.
Is there a saying for that?
I don't know. I see what you mean.
Yeah, and think about the people behind them just walk chill.
Right, yeah. So the person who's going first is going to get whacked in the head.
Yeah.
They're going to have to suffer.
Yeah.
But everyone else, you know,
just follows the
has
path.
The clear path. Yeah, that's true.
That's the way of visualization of like a one trick.
For sure.
All right, mailbag time.
Yep.
Away we go. Welcome back for Nathan's mailbag. Jingle song. Alrighty then. Our first question here comes from Aizen. The title of this email is Ego and Champion Role Shaming. Hello, Coach Curtis and Nathan. I'm a huge fan of the podcast. I started playing League in Season 12 and played it casually. In a few weeks, I will finish my high school, which will give me so much free time to grind League and get coaching. However, I'm having a dilemma. My favorite role is support, mainly enchanters, but a lot of people hate support mains, especially enchanter mains, calling them inflated, bad at the game, don't deserve the elo. And it makes me not want to play the role because I don't want people to view me like this, and I want I want to be viewed as good. I want to be viewed as good. I can play Victor all day and grind mid lane, but it's not going to be as fun as playing any enchanter support. By the way, I'm 18, so maybe I just care too much about what other people think about me. So what do you guys think I should do? I trust you more than myself when it comes to League, so whatever you say will dictate my journey moving forward. Much love. We've got this guy's League journey, his career in our hands,
in our palms right now.
It's up to us. The decision that we make right now dictates his life and the challenges that he will face in this game.
Do you want to start with this one?
Yeah. I mean, there is some very good enchanter support players at the game. And people might not want to admit that, but there is... I think of like Soraka, like
shout out Kitty.
Yeah,
she was an incredibly annoying player to verse in solo queue.
You know it in a game when you're playing that, and people might not admit it. People will say it's like, oh wow, that's so easy that it's inflated. It's like, okay, how about you climb and play, playing enchanters against engage, and it's not easy, and like really just embracing that, let's say if I'm playing Soraka or whatever, playing against a Nautilus, whatever, there's so much skill that goes into that,
Look, I'm going to frame it this way. You can play enchanter supports in a very conservative, non-interactive, defensive way that doesn't teach you much about the game. You can also play enchanter supports like an absolute animal, getting in people's face, taking control of bushes, min-maxing your spacing, weaving in autos, baiting out abilities, being an absolute monster.
High impact gameplay.
And be mega high impact and take over a game and develop a lot of skills. It's how you utilize it. Okay, a great analogy, or I guess a comparison, would be League of Legends, the game of League of Legends. You can passively play the game of League, treat it as a very casual hobby, and you can not really get much out of it. Or you can take League relatively seriously as a hobby. You can actually learn a lot about yourself. You can develop a growth mindset. You can do all these things. But you would only get access to all that beautiful learning and benefits if you took it very seriously. So I think that it's more about how you chop it up and how intense you are and how focused you are. And if you're actually really, paying attention to I guess really trying to min-max your pressure and actually taking the role seriously. And I think if you're passionate about enchanter supports, do it and take your gameplay to the next level. Watch high-level VODs, study their gameplay, look at their movement, how are they posturing in the lane, get into the details. And that would be my 2 cents.
You get in what you get out what you put in, right? At the end of the day, sure. So yeah, I mean, you're 18 years old. That's definitely a narrative in the community for sure. I'm when we start the support academy, Curtis, and we get into learning that role. I'm excited to break that narrative.
Me too.
Break those. It's like remember that Soraka game that we actually reviewed on the podcast, the duo one. And watching a Soraka player like that is excited to work with because we can completely do a 180 on how to play that champion.
I think support, when we do the support academy, that will be the role that I think we actually change the view of the role holistically. Like, we can have massive impact.
Yes, I agree.
Like, it's the most misunderstood role.
Absolutely. Oh, by far.
By far.
Yeah.
Not even close.
It's not even close. Yeah, I think the support position is fantastic.
It is.
It really is.
It is.
And it's
disrespected.
Yeah.
Misunderstood.
And I guess you could literally, it's like the unsung warrior, right? Or, in the game, because you just look at the score, right? It's not sexy. It's, the 1-0-18 scoreline. It's like, but that person has absolutely carried the game. That's going to be fun. I'm excited. And shout out to Coach Cupcake if you want to learn support.
Yes, check out his guides.
His guides on YouTube. Absolutely. Friend of the show. All right, next one here comes from Maliko. The title of this one is Reaching Grandmaster and Playing with My Idols. Hi, Nathan and Curtis. Recently, I reached Grandmaster, for which I really have to thank to you, but I started actually having a certain issue during my games. I started playing with people I've been watching for 5+ years and idolizing them. Players like Latharus, Nemesis, Calist, Selfmade, etc. When I get into a match with these players, I start to get nervous, but it's hard to even imagine they could play worse or on the same level as me so that I could beat them. I know they're playing the same game as me, and the only way to get better is to just play better League of Legends, but I've always thought of them as being above the game. Do you have any advice on this? I get that I'm playing the same game I've always played in theory, but when I'm in the game, whenever I see them making what I think is a mistake, I assume there's just something I don't see. Funny part of it is that when I'm finally in the zone and I'm just playing my best, I see the challenge or recall animation and I go back to being nervous, like I don't belong in the game. P.S. Thank you for your content. Compared to the rest, I'd say that others only give me a fish. Specific in-game improvements. Meanwhile, you guys taught me how to fish. Mindset, curiosity, learning how to improve. Another
Awesome.
Lovely analogy.
Great.
Here's his OPGG here.
I think it's very important to really accept that there is no way around this. Every single high-level player that I've worked with, the first time they get GM, the first time they get chow, etc., it's the exact same question, literally.
Yeah.
Quote. So you need to understand that there is no way around it. You're going to be nervous. You're going to be anxious. You're going to feel like a fraud. You're going to have imposter syndrome. It's all there. It's just embedded in the journey. So really simply, you do have to get in the reps, suck it up, and over time, you just build familiarity. The second thing, though, is you need to change the way you talk about these individuals. Okay, so when you find yourself saying these things, kind of like, I guess, glorifying them and
specifically what
them,
he said there, it's like he thinks that they're making mistakes, but he just says to himself, there's just something I don't see.
But that starts with changing the way you your self-talk and dialogue around these players. If you find yourself saying, they're just so good, blah, blah, you just get specific. What are they doing well? What does this player do well? And obviously, if they were playing flawlessly, they would be rank 1. They're not. Everyone's making mistakes, and I think this is an important eye-opening thing for you. I have to try and remind people about this. Okay, I got a client at the moment, Marvin's old school. He's been in their life for quite a while. He's got a narrative similar to this, and the narrative goes: if you're a challenger player, if you're a really good challenger player, you don't make mistakes. You play perfectly. That's bullshit. He only thinks that because he watches stream highlights and all these highlight montage plays that never really show you the whole games. I said, if you go to PZZ, he's a Yasuo player, you go to PZZ's stream or you watch his full VODs, you will see many, 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 many mistakes. You will see basic mistakes from the best players in the world. You watch Chovy. I did a video, I think, on it once, on Chovy, making basic errors. League it's not about playing perfect League of Legends. It's about minimizing the amount of mistakes. It's about the quality of the mistakes. And it's about the consistency of your gameplay. Everyone makes mistakes. And so the League, and the reason for this is not because they don't know what to do. It's because as everyone gets better, everyone's mental stack is overwhelmed even more because everyone is pushing you to your limit.
And there's mind games as well.
And there's mind games among mind games among mind games. There's the league will never get to a point where there is no mistakes made.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
Because of the human element and the human error. And we're just not AI robots. It's literally impossible.
Literally impossible. So you got to remember that understanding, like accepting that is what makes a challenger player. The fact that you will make mistakes. It's about covering your errors. It's about capitalizing on other errors. It's about minimizing the quality of the mistake, the quality, having either good quality deaths, minimizing the bad quality deaths, and being hard to beat. And I think that when you start to stop idolizing them, stop putting them on a pedestal, start getting specific in your compliments. Nemesis does this well.
Exactly. It's a language.
Selfmade does this specific thing well. He did in this skirmish. He used his E well.
Yeah, you ever want to get more things. It's not saying he's good at last hit-in.
Get specific.
This is why he had high CS in this game.
Yes, what did he do?
Specifically show me a minute 3, that wave, that wave, that wave.
And you will know what happens over time as you do this, you'll realize what players are very good at. And every high elo player has different strengths and weaknesses. There are pro players that I've versed that I'm like, holy shit, their laning is, specifically their spacing and their tethering and their ability to bait out my ability is so good. But they mess up, like they're not, I can tell, they've got a lot of weaknesses in their mid game that I know that I can capitalize on. Why are they doing that? They didn't need to do that. You'll notice these over time. The more specific you get, the better off you're going to be, and that's going to help break down those narratives.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, and I think that you have to just be comfortable. This is normal.
Very
And
normal.
it's sort of just going to keep rocking up to the office. You know, you'll see the same people around. You'll see the routine. Like when I say the routine, it's like the pace of a game in Challenger, you know, Grandmaster, you know, what it's like. And then it's just another day, you know, it's just another day on the Rift, you know. I remember that was for me when I first got to Challenger in OS back in season 2 with Radia, right? And because everyone talked about Radia, he was a god. He was the rank 1. I think he was rank 1 by like 700 LP, you know, at that time or whatever. And yeah, I definitely significantly, you know, played worse, you know, because I'll be second guessing myself and being thinking like, is he like baiting me here by like Eing in as Lucian? It would be Lucian was like super OP at the time, but it's like, no, I could have killed him there. I just think he knows something that I don't. And it will just come with time, you know.
Yep.
And eventually just playing the games all the time with them, and you know, you'll see the mistakes, and you know, you try and break it down. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense, and realize that these people are human. But I mean, they're human, but they're very good at League of Legends still. I can't, you know, they're
It's not
over a long period
disrespect.
of
It's
time.
giving them respect
Yeah.
specifically about, you know, specific things.
But League is just too hard of a game. It's so hard.
Yep. Great. I mean, and keep us updated. If you end up reaching Chow one day, right in.
All right, next one here is from Miguel. The title of this one is Struggling to Figure Out My Main Role. Hello, Nathan and Curtis. This is Miguel from Spain, currently a member of Sol2. First of all, a bit of context on my League journey. I started playing at the start of Season 7, although I never played a single ranked game in my first few years. Very quickly, I became a hardcore Evelyn one-trick to the extent that I didn't even want to buy other champions since I would play her in any role, but mainly jungle and mid. Sometime after that, her rework was announced and I got devastated, so you can have a rough idea of how much I played her. I managed to get around 800,000 mastery points prior to her rework alone, but the moment when her rework was announced, I figured it was the perfect point for me to try out other champions. And I've basically tried out most champions and all 5 roles, being top lane the only role that I never really tried to main, but still have enjoyed playing it sporadically. After Eve's rework, I'd already started my ranked journey by that point. I decided to stick to the champion and therefore became a jungle main since she was no longer viable in any other place. However, very often I did try to play other roles in ranked, mainly bot lane carry. Played a lot of mages in that role or mid lane, but my results were by far always better in the jungle. This might be because there's a much more limited number of champions that I like to play in the jungle, around 6-7, opposed to mid lane where I wouldn't mind maining almost any champ. This made it easier for me to stick to a limited champ pool and likely also helped me improve faster in the jungle role. By the time I had already reached Platinum and later Emerald and it was introduced, it was clear that the decision I had to take would be between mid lane or jungle. I ended up choosing the latter, mainly due to the better results I was getting. As I already said, I like all roles. I like League in general, and I would find enjoyment in any role in the game if I was to play it, but at the moment I am committed to improving and I wanted to focus on exclusively one role, so I joined Sol2. However, I can't avoid questioning if I chose correctly the role that I main, especially when things are not going so well. And this will inevitably happen in any role. Am I maining jungle only because of the sunk cost fallacy, since I had already invested that much time into Eve? She is still my most played champ. Even though currently I'm better as a jungler, is it where I have the most potential? Can I even make a decision without regretting questioning it in the future? Thank you so much in advance in case you happen to answer, and congratulations on your great program.
It's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it?
It is.
I just think I just think that's the way life is. You just kind of go with it. You can't question it in a way. Like,
it's sort of like, I guess,
like the grass is, like you say all the time, the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a reason for everything. There's a reason you were drawn to Evelyn, and you know, Evelyn became a jungler, and that's what you put your time into. And I just think
now
with
you
it.
think it's just sort of just overthinking things a little
Yeah, I
bit.
think we're overthinking it.
Yeah, you know, it's sort of like career, as like I'm trying to use career as an analogy. You sort of, life leads you in a certain path, and then you sort of, like, at the end of the day, I'm not suddenly right now going to be a chef, right? Like, theoretically I could, but that's going to be, I wouldn't even say not like a logical decision. I guess you can talk about money or in career and, your skills and your time in life and stage, but you sort of just got to embrace and enjoy the cool things about like every job, everything. Every champion has strengths and weaknesses. How about we just get what are the exciting parts that wanted me to become like again, let's use, for example, I am a chef and for some reason I want to be a lead coach, whatever. Let's get into why I love being a chef in the first place. Let's say if I'm starting to question if I made the right career path, I'm sure there's something there. And yeah, don't overthink it that much.
Yeah, I think there's some good advice there. I think as well, I mean, at the end of the day, we're fortunate enough that we're not trying to swap our career here.
Yeah,
we're only talking about league roles.
Yeah.
So let's bring it back to league roles.
We like to use our extreme analogy sometimes, don't we, Curtis?
I mean, at the end of the day, why don't you set a goal for your jungle? It's like, okay, what's a goal that excites you about jungle right now with your role? That could be Diamond 4. It could be Master Tier. I don't know, right? Set a goal. And then once you reach that goal, you give yourself room or permission to maybe experiment with other things. Why don't you set yourself aside and be like, you know what? I'm going to complete this goal. I've started. I don't want to quit while this project that I've started, right? It doesn't make sense to quit this jungle journey when you've really put so much time into it. I think it would be illogical to do so. Set your goal that excites you, do it, achieve it, however long it takes. And then maybe start working on a secondary role. Right? Just, maybe you want to learn a secondary role. You want to learn more about the game. It's a win-win. It'll make you better at jungle either way. Set aside time to that and say, okay, I'm going to do 6 months of this or whatever. No matter what, set aside a period of time. By the end of that time period, you will know, because you would have given it a fair crack, you will know if that role really is for you or not. And in my opinion, that's a win-win because number one, you're first getting to the decent rank with your main role first. Number two, you'd be experimenting with a secondary role that would actually probably make you a better jungler anyway. And then it's not like you're locked in on that secondary role. You can always go back to jungle and you'd be okay. I think that would be the most logical.
And then you'll be at peace of mind about the regret. Like,
yeah,
I did it.
Exactly. You've done it. You've given it a shot.
So you probably just really just give it a shot if you're thinking about it.
If you're really that concerned about it, that's what you would do.
Yeah.
That would be specifically how I would recommend doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, does that make sense? I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think you use the word it's illogical, technically, in his situation with so much champ mastery and jungle to switch to go down the rabbit hole in some other whole role, not even different champion.
You would have to actually set a lot of time. It would have to be between probably a whole season actually.
Yeah.
It'd probably have to be a whole year. Which would be hard, but
Yeah. What I'm saying is I think let's get more excited about, let's try and find more ways to make our career or champion, more exciting,
Yep.
Let's start studying some Eve 1 tricks. Let's watch their gameplay. Let's get more specific. Let's try and take things to the next level. Because that's fun. Because at the end of the day, as humans, we like to do things that it's fun to wake up in the morning and know that I'm good at something, right?
Yeah.
And just do that. Versus starting from the get-go, scattered everywhere, starting from the get-go.
You will have a lot of fun and satisfaction going deep on this, continuing down this Evelyn route and continue on the jungle route. I think you can get a lot out of it. I think you have a lot of fun. And I can't speak for you, but for myself, the deeper I've gone on my journey, the more fun I've had because it's like you get to a point where it's like you're able to think about the game in a way that you never would have thought about before. Right? There's just so much creativity to be tapped into, but you can't even tap into that creativity without having so much muscle memory, so much experience with your champion, so much champ mastery. And that's the path that you're on, but you're just delaying that by swapping all over the place. So, I think that the longer you can go and, push your limits with your Evelyn and your jungle, the more satisfaction you're probably going to have. But like I said, if you really had to scratch that itch, you really, really sold on that other recommendation would be what I would do.
Set some time aside and go do it.
Do it, exactly.
Peace of mind. All right. Well, that's it for Mailbag today, Curtis. Any final comments?
We just released a top program.
Top Lane Academy.
Check it out.
If you haven't seen that already. And we did our school community post. Join our free school community.
Yep.
We have a Garen guide on there. We actually are going to be adding guides from other roles over the next couple of weeks, months. So stay tuned for that as well. Links in the description below. Good work, guys. Keep on improving. We'll see you guys next week.